What I'm about to tell you could save your life, or at the very least, save you from months of excruciating pain and thousands of dollars in medical bills. Just last week, I received a heartbreaking email from Susan in Colorado. She's 64 years old, a retired teacher who thought she was doing everything right. Every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, Susan would roll out her yoga mat and do what she believed were the 3 pillars of senior fitness: 50 sit-ups for her core, overhead presses with 10-pound weights for her shoulders, and deep squats to keep her legs strong. On a Tuesday morning in March, during her 30th sit-up, Susan heard something she'll never forget. A sound like a small firecracker going off in her lower back. The pain was so intense she couldn't move for 20 minutes. 6 months later, after 2 surgeries, countless physical therapy sessions, and medical bills that topped $15,000, Susan wrote to tell me something that sent chills down my spine. Her orthopedic surgeon looked her straight in the eye and said, "Susan, if you had just stopped doing those 3 exercises 5 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation today." Susan's story isn't unique. In fact, it's become terrifyingly common. Emergency room data from the past 5 years shows a 340% increase in exercise-related injuries among adults over 60, and here's the shocking part. Nearly 80% of these injuries come from just 3 exercises that people think are good for them. The American College of Sports Medicine just released a position statement calling these exercises high risk, low reward for the senior population, and physical therapists across the country are begging their patients to stop. If you're someone who cares about your health, your independence, and your quality of life as you age, then you absolutely need to hear this information. And if you know someone over 60 who exercises regularly, please share this video with them immediately. You could literally be saving them from a life-altering injury. Before we dive in, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. Not because I need the subscribers, but because this information is too important to get buried in YouTube's algorithm. When you subscribe and hit that notification bell, you're ensuring that vital health information like this reaches you first. And you're helping us spread these life-saving tips to more seniors who desperately need them. Let's start with the first exercise that's devastating senior bodies across America, and it's probably one you're doing right now. The first exercise doctors are desperately trying to get seniors to stop is the traditional sit-up and its cousin, the crunch. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, "But I've been doing sit-ups since high school. They're good for your core." And that's exactly the problem. What worked for your 18-year-old body is now destroying your 60-year-old body, and here's the science that proves it. Dr. Stuart McGill, the world's leading spine biomechanics researcher at the University of Waterloo, has spent over 30 years studying what happens to the human spine during exercise. His findings are absolutely terrifying for anyone over 50 who still does crunches. When you perform a traditional sit-up, you create what Dr. McGill calls a perfect storm of spinal destruction. Let me paint you a picture of what's actually happening inside your body. Imagine your spinal discs as jelly-filled donuts. When you're young, these discs are plump, well-hydrated, and incredibly resilient. They can handle tremendous pressure and bounce back like new car tires. But after age 50, something devastating starts happening. These discs begin losing their water content at a rate of about 1% per year. By age 65, your discs have lost nearly 15% of their original height and flexibility. They become more like stale donuts, brittle and prone to cracking under pressure. Now, here's where it gets terrifying. When you do a sit-up, especially if you clasp your hands behind your head like most people do, you're creating approximately 730 pounds of compressive force on your lower spine. But that's just the beginning. The forward flexion motion of a crunch creates what biomechanics experts call shear force, literally sliding your vertebrae against each other like tectonic plates before an earthquake. For a young person with healthy discs, this might not be a problem. For someone over 60 with dehydrated, brittle discs, it's like repeatedly bending a coat hanger until it snaps. Let me tell you about Robert Martinez, a 68-year-old retired firefighter from San Antonio. Robert was proud of his fitness routine. Every morning for 15 years, he did 100 sit-ups in his garage while watching the morning news. I figured if it was good enough for the fire academy, it was good enough for retirement, Robert told me. He had no back pain, no warning signs, and considered himself to be in excellent shape for his age. On a humid Thursday morning in July, Robert was on sit-up number 73 when he felt what he described as someone driving a knife into my lower back and twisting it. The pain was so severe that his wife found him an hour later, still curled up on his garage floor, unable to move. The MRI revealed something that shocked even his experienced orthopedic surgeon. Robert had suffered what's called a massive disc extrusion at the L4-L5 level. Essentially, the jelly filling of his disc had burst out like toothpaste from a tube, compressing his sciatic nerve and causing excruciating pain that shot down his entire left leg. But here's the part that will make you angry. During Robert's surgery consultation, his surgeon pulled up his old MRI scans from a minor back injury he'd had 10 years earlier. Those earlier scans showed perfectly healthy discs with no signs of wear or tear. "Mr. Martinez," the surgeon explained, "your discs were completely normal a decade ago. This injury is entirely consistent with repetitive flexion loading, specifically from exercises like sit-ups and crunches. If we had seen you 5 years ago and told you to stop doing sit-ups, your discs would still be intact today." Robert's surgery took 4 hours and cost $47,000. His recovery took 8 months, during which he couldn't drive, couldn't sleep through the night, and needed help getting dressed. "I went from doing 100 sit-ups to not being able to tie my own shoes," Robert said, "all because I thought I was being healthy." But Robert's story gets even more heartbreaking. During his physical therapy, Robert met dozens of other seniors recovering from similar injuries. There was Patricia, 61, who herniated 2 discs doing morning crunches while watching her favorite exercise show. There was David, 59, who had been doing sit-ups religiously for his dad bod and ended up needing spinal fusion surgery. And there was Maria, 67, whose daily abdominal routine left her with chronic pain so severe she had to give up playing with her grandchildren. The physical therapist treating all of these patients, Jennifer Walsh, has been practicing for over 20 years. 5 years ago, I might see 1 or 2 exercise-related disc injuries per month in seniors, Jennifer told me. Now I see 5 or 6 per week, and 90% of them are from sit-ups and crunches. It's reached epidemic proportions, and the worst part is that it's completely preventable. Dr. Walsh showed me something that will shock you. She keeps before and after MRI images of patients who've suffered disc injuries from crunches, and the progression is always the same. First, small tears appear in the outer ring of the disc, like tiny cracks in a car windshield. These micro-tears are often painless, so people keep doing their crunches, completely unaware that they're creating catastrophic damage. Over time, these cracks grow larger and deeper until finally, like Robert, the disc gives way completely. The tragedy, Dr. Walsh explained, is that there are safer, more effective ways to strengthen your core that don't put your spine at risk. But people are stuck in this mindset that if it's not painful, it's not working. So what should you do instead? Let me introduce you to what spine experts call spine-neutral core training, And I promise you, these alternatives are not only safer, but actually more effective than traditional crunches. The gold standard replacement for sit-ups is what's called a modified plank progression. Instead of repeatedly flexing your spine, you're going to learn to stabilize it, which is actually what your core muscles are designed to do in real life. Start by lying on your stomach, then prop yourself up on your forearms and knees. Your body should form a straight line from your head to your knees, no sagging in the middle, no hiking your hips up in the air. Hold this position for just 10 seconds to start. Now, here's the beautiful thing about planks. Unlike sit-ups, which only work the front of your core, planks engage your entire core system, your deep abdominal muscles, your back muscles, your hip muscles, even your shoulder stabilizers. You're essentially training your core the way it actually works in daily life, as a stabilizing system rather than a flexing system. Sarah Chen, a 63-year-old architect from Portland, switched from doing 50 daily crunches to doing 3 20-second planks after watching one of our previous videos. Within 6 weeks, I noticed something amazing, Sarah told me. My chronic lower back pain that I'd had for 3 years just disappeared. Plus, I felt stronger and more stable when I was gardening or carrying groceries. It turns out that crunches were actually making me weaker, not stronger. The second safe alternative is what we call dead bug exercises. And don't let the silly name fool you. This exercise is incredibly effective and completely spine safe. Lie on your back with your knees bent at 90 degrees and your arms reaching toward the ceiling. Slowly extend one leg until it's straight, hovering just above the floor, while simultaneously lowering the opposite arm toward the floor behind your head. Return to the starting position and repeat on the other side. This teaches your core to stabilize your spine while your limbs move independently, which is exactly what you need for daily activities. If you're finding this information helpful so far, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone you know who's over 60. This could literally prevent someone from going through what Robert, Patricia, David and Maria experienced. Your share could save someone from surgery, months of pain, and thousands of dollars in medical bills. Now let's move on to the second exercise that's absolutely devastating senior shoulders and causing more emergency room visits than doctors ever expected. The second exercise that's sending seniors to surgery at alarming rates is the overhead press, whether it's with dumbbells, barbells, or even resistance bands. This exercise has fooled millions of people into thinking they're building upper body strength when they're actually setting themselves up for one of the most painful and difficult to heal injuries imaginable, a rotator cuff tear. To understand why overhead pressing is so dangerous for seniors, you need to understand the anatomy of your shoulder, and trust me, once you see what's really happening, you'll never look at this exercise the same way again. Your shoulder is the most mobile joint in your entire body, capable of moving in virtually every direction. This incredible mobility comes at a cost: stability. Unlike your hip joint, which is a deep ball and socket design built for stability, your shoulder joint is more like a golf ball sitting on a tee. It relies almost entirely on 4 small muscles called the rotator cuff to keep the ball centered in the socket. Here's where age becomes your enemy. Starting around age 40, but accelerating dramatically after 60, several devastating changes occur in your rotator cuff. First, blood flow to these muscles decreases by up to 40%, which means they heal more slowly and are more prone to injury. Second, the tendons that attach these muscles to your bones begin to fray and weaken, like old rope left out in the weather. Third, bone spurs often develop on the underside of your shoulder blade, creating what doctors call impingement syndrome, where your rotator cuff gets pinched every time you raise your arm overhead. Dr. James Andrews, the legendary orthopedic surgeon who has operated on countless professional athletes, puts it this way. By age 60, nearly 80% of people have some degree of rotator cuff degeneration, even if they don't have symptoms yet. Overhead pressing at this age is like playing Russian roulette with your shoulders. Let me tell you about Linda Kowalski, a 59-year-old grandmother from Milwaukee who learned this lesson the hard way. Linda had always been active, but after retirement, she decided to get serious about strength training. She joined a gym and hired a trainer who put her on a program that included overhead pressing 3 times per week. "I was so proud of myself," Linda told me. "I worked up to pressing 20-pound dumbbells overhead for sets of 12. I thought I was getting stronger and healthier." For 6 months, everything seemed fine. Linda felt strong, her posture improved, and she loved the feeling of getting fitter. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon in November, during her warm-up set with just 15-pound dumbbells, Linda felt what she described as a rubber band snapping inside my shoulder. The pain was immediate and intense, but what scared her more was what happened next. She couldn't lift her right arm higher than her waist. The MRI revealed a complete tear of Linda's supraspinatus tendon, one of the 4 rotator cuff muscles, along with partial tears in 2 others. It looked like someone had taken scissors to her tendons, her orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Rebecca Thompson, explained. This is exactly the injury pattern we see from repetitive overhead loading in the senior population. Linda's surgeon offered her 2 options, surgery or accepting permanent disability. "I told Linda that without surgery she'd likely never be able to reach overhead again," Dr. Thompson said. "She wouldn't be able to put dishes away in upper cabinets, hang clothes on a line, or even wave goodbye properly." For an active grandmother, this was devastating news. Linda chose surgery, which involved reattaching her torn tendons to the bone using titanium anchors. The procedure took 3 hours and cost over $30,000, but surgery was just the beginning of Linda's nightmare. Rotator cuff recovery is notoriously difficult and slow. For the first 6 weeks, Linda's arm was immobilized in a special brace 24 hours a day. She couldn't dress herself, couldn't shower without help, and couldn't sleep through the night because of pain. The worst part wasn't the pain, Linda told me. It was the helplessness. "I went from being an independent, active person to needing help with everything. I couldn't even make a cup of coffee because I couldn't reach the cabinet where I kept the mugs." Linda's physical therapy lasted 8 months and was, in her words, more painful than childbirth. Even now, 2 years later, Linda still has limited range of motion and chronic pain. She can't sleep on her right side, struggles to reach anything above shoulder height, and has had to give up many of the activities she loved. But here's what makes Linda's story even more tragic. During her recovery, Linda met with Dr. Mike Reinold, a physical therapist who specializes in shoulder injuries. Dr. Reinold reviewed Linda's exercise history and delivered news that left her speechless. "Linda, based on your age and activity level, you were at extremely high risk for this injury. Overhead pressing after 55 is one of the most dangerous things you can do to your shoulders. If your trainer had known this, we could have given you exercises that would have made you stronger without putting your rotator cuff at risk." Dr. Reinold showed Linda research that proves overhead pressing isn't even the best way to build shoulder strength in seniors. "The irony," he explained, "is that the exercises we use to rehabilitate rotator cuff injuries are actually more effective for building functional strength than overhead pressing ever was. This brings us to the safer alternatives, and I promise you these exercises will make your shoulders stronger and more stable than overhead pressing ever could." The first and most effective alternative is what physical therapists call scaption raises. Instead of pressing directly overhead, you'll raise light weights, we're talking 2 to 5 pounds maximum, at a 30-degree angle forward from your sides, stopping when your arms are parallel to the floor. This angle matches the natural alignment of your shoulder blade and puts zero stress on your rotator cuff while still strengthening all the muscles you need for daily activities. Martha Rodriguez, a 66-year-old retired nurse from Phoenix, made this switch after watching our previous video on shoulder safety. I was doing overhead presses with 15-pound dumbbells and constantly had shoulder aches, Martha told me. I switched to scaption raises with 3-pound weights, and within a month, not only did my shoulder pain disappear, but I actually felt stronger when reaching for things or carrying groceries. The second safe alternative is resistance band exercises, specifically external rotation exercises. These directly target your rotator cuff muscles in a safe, controlled way. Attach a resistance band to a doorknob at elbow height, hold the other end with your elbow bent at 90 degrees and tucked against your side, then slowly rotate your arm outward against the resistance. This exercise specifically strengthens the posterior rotator cuff, which becomes weak and tight in most adults over 50. The third alternative is wall push-ups, which build the same pressing strength as overhead presses, but in a completely safe, shoulder-friendly position. Stand arm's length from a wall, place your palms flat against it at shoulder height, and do push-ups against the wall. You can make it more challenging by stepping further from the wall or doing them on one arm. Tom Patterson, a 71-year-old retired mechanic from Detroit, had been struggling with shoulder pain from overhead pressing for 2 years. After switching to these 3 alternatives, his pain disappeared within 6 weeks. I actually feel stronger now than when I was doing heavy overhead presses, Tom said. Plus, I can sleep through the night again, which I hadn't been able to do in years. If you're starting to realize that some of the exercises you've been doing might be putting you at risk, please don't panic. The human body is remarkably resilient and forgiving. The key is to stop the dangerous movements now, before they cause irreversible damage, and replace them with exercises that actually make you stronger and safer. And if this information is opening your eyes to how dangerous some common exercises can be for seniors, please hit that subscribe button and share this video. You could literally be saving someone from months of pain and thousands of dollars in medical bills. Now let's talk about the third exercise that's causing the most devastating injuries of all. And it's one that even many fitness professionals don't realize is so dangerous for seniors. The third exercise that's absolutely destroying senior bodies and causing more emergency room visits than any other is deep squats and jump squats. This might shock you, because squats are often called the king of exercises and are recommended by fitness professionals everywhere. But here's what they're not telling you. What's good for a 25-year-old athlete is potentially catastrophic for a 65-year-old body. Let me start by telling you about the most heartbreaking case I've encountered. It involves George Hartley, a 67-year-old retired construction worker from rural Montana. George was one of those guys who prided himself on still being tough as nails. Every morning he'd do 50 deep squats in his barn, going all the way down until his hamstrings touched his calves, then exploding up as fast as he could. I figured if I could still squat like a young man, I was beating Father Time, George told me. George had been doing this routine for 3 years without any problems. His knees felt fine, his hips were mobile, and he loved the feeling of strength and power the squats gave him. Then, on a cold February morning, during squat number 23, George heard 3 distinct popping sounds from his right knee, followed by pain so intense that he collapsed on his barn floor. What happened to George is called a catastrophic multi-tissue failure, and it's becoming terrifyingly common among seniors who do deep or explosive squats. The MRI revealed that George had simultaneously torn his ACL, damaged his meniscus, and fractured his tibial plateau. It was like his knee had been in a car accident, except the only thing that hit it was his own body weight. George's orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Patricia Weiss, has been practicing for over 25 years and has seen this exact injury pattern dozens of times in the past few years. What's happening, Dr. Weiss explained, is that seniors are doing exercises designed for young athletes, but their joints simply can't handle the forces involved. George's injury would have been severe for a 20-year-old football player. For a 67-year-old man, it was devastating. To understand why deep squats are so dangerous for seniors, you need to understand what age does to your knees and hips. After age 50, your cartilage begins to thin and lose its shock-absorbing properties. Your ligaments become less elastic and more prone to tearing. Your bones become more porous and fragile. Most importantly, your proprioception, your body's ability to sense where your joints are in space, begins to decline. When you perform a deep squat, you're asking your knees to bend to their absolute maximum range of motion while supporting your entire body weight. At the bottom of a deep squat, your knee is bent to approximately 130 degrees, which creates enormous pressure on your kneecap and compressive forces through your knee joint. For a young person with healthy cartilage and strong ligaments, this might not be a problem. For someone over 60 with age-related joint changes, it's like repeatedly slamming a hammer against a cracking wall. But jump squats are even worse. When you add explosive movement to deep squatting, you're creating what biomechanics experts call impact loading forces that can exceed 8 times your body weight. To put this in perspective, if you weigh 160 pounds, the force going through your knees during a jump squat can exceed 1,200 pounds. Your 60-year-old knees simply weren't designed to handle this kind of force. Dr. Kevin Wilk, a physical therapist who has worked with professional athletes for over 30 years, puts it bluntly, "I wouldn't let a 20-year-old football player do jump squats without extensive preparation and perfect form. The fact that we're telling 65-year-olds to do them is absolute insanity." Let me tell you about another patient, Carol Stevens, a 62-year-old yoga instructor from California who thought she was immune to injury because of her flexibility and fitness background. Carol had been teaching yoga for 20 years and considered herself extremely knowledgeable about safe exercise. When she decided to add some functional fitness to her routine, she started incorporating deep squats and jump squats into her personal workouts. "I was so confident in my body awareness and flexibility," Carol told me. "I thought that because I could do deep yoga poses, deep squats would be perfectly safe for me. For months, everything seemed fine. Carol felt stronger and more athletic than she had in years. Then, during a particularly intense workout session where she was doing jump squats to her favorite high-energy music, Carol landed awkwardly from one rep and felt her right hip give way. The pain was immediate and severe, but what scared her most was that she couldn't put any weight on her right leg. The X-rays revealed what Carol's doctor called the worst possible scenario. Carol had suffered a femoral neck fracture, essentially breaking the top of her thigh bone where it connects to the hip joint. This is the same type of injury that happens to elderly patients who fall, except Carol's was caused by the repetitive impact loading from jump squats. When I saw Carol's X-rays, her orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Michael Torres, told me, I initially assumed she must have fallen downstairs or been in a car accident. When I learned it was from exercise, I was shocked. But then I reviewed the literature, and it turns out we're seeing more and more of these exercise-induced fractures in active seniors. Carol's surgery involved replacing her entire hip joint with titanium and ceramic components. The procedure took 4 hours and cost over $60,000. Her recovery took nearly a year, during which she couldn't teach yoga, couldn't drive, and needed help with basic daily activities. "The irony is devastating," Carol said. "I was trying to stay strong and healthy, and I ended up with the same injury that happens to frail elderly people who fall. Except I did it to myself, and I should have known better." But Carol's story has an important lesson. During her rehabilitation, she worked with Dr. Sue Falsone, a physical therapist who specializes in senior fitness. Dr. Falsone introduced Carol to what she calls joint-friendly leg strengthening, and the results were remarkable. "We got Carol stronger and more functional than she had been before her injury," Dr. Falsone explained. "But we did it using exercises that actually protect her joints instead of destroying them." So what are these safer alternatives? I'm going to share 3 exercises that will make your legs stronger and more functional than deep squats ever could, while actually reducing your risk of injury. The first is what we call chair squats, and this might sound too easy, but I promise you, when done correctly, this exercise is incredibly effective. Sit in a sturdy chair, then stand up using only your leg muscles, no hands on the armrests. Lower yourself back down slowly, taking 3 to 4 seconds to descend. This teaches your legs to work through their functional range of motion while providing a built-in safety stop at the bottom. Janet Morrison, a 69-year-old retired teacher from Ohio, made this switch after experiencing knee pain from deep squats. "At first, I thought chair squats were too easy," Janet told me. "But when I started doing them slowly and focusing on perfect form, they were actually more challenging than the deep squats I had been doing. Plus, my knee pain completely disappeared." The second safe alternative is wall sits, which build incredible leg strength and endurance while putting zero stress on your knee joints. Stand with your back against a wall and slide down until your thighs are parallel to the floor, as if you're sitting in an invisible chair. Hold this position for 10 to 30 seconds, working up to longer holds as you get stronger. The beauty of wall sits is that they strengthen your legs in a static position, eliminating the dynamic forces that make squats so dangerous. Your knees stay in a safe, stable position while your leg muscles work incredibly hard to maintain the hold. The third alternative is step-ups using a sturdy step or low bench. This exercise mimics one of the most important functional movements you do every day, climbing stairs. Step up with one foot, bring the other foot up to meet it, then step back down with control. Start with a low step and work up to higher steps as you get stronger. Richard Kim, a 64-year-old engineer from Seattle, switched to these 3 exercises after reading about the dangers of deep squats in one of our previous articles. "I was skeptical at first," Richard told me. "I thought I needed to squat heavy to stay strong. But after 6 months of chair squats, wall sits and step-ups, I'm actually stronger than I was before, and I feel much more stable and confident in my daily activities." The transformation in Richard's functional strength was remarkable. He went from struggling to get up from low chairs and needing the handrail on stairs to easily rising from any seat and climbing stairs with confidence. "The best part," Richard said, "is that I never worry about getting injured. These exercises make me feel strong and safe at the same time." If you're starting to realize that some of your current exercise routine might be putting you at unnecessary risk, don't worry. The fact that you're watching this video means you care about your health and want to make smart decisions about your fitness. The key is to make changes now, before you experience the kind of devastating injuries that George and Carol went through. Let me give you a quick summary of what we've covered today, because this information is too important to forget. The 3 exercises that doctors are desperately trying to get seniors to stop are First, sit-ups and crunches, which destroy your spinal discs and cause herniated discs and chronic back pain. Second, heavy overhead pressing, which tears rotator cuff muscles and can require expensive surgery with difficult recovery. And third, deep squats and jump squats, which can cause catastrophic knee and hip injuries that may never fully heal. But here's the good news. For every dangerous exercise, there's a safer, more effective alternative. Instead of crunches, do planks and dead bugs to build real core stability. Instead of overhead pressing, do scaption raises and resistance band exercises to build shoulder strength safely. Instead of deep squats, do chair squats, wall sits, and step-ups to build leg strength while protecting your joints. The most important thing to remember is this. Exercise should make you stronger and healthier, not put you at risk for life-changing injuries. You don't need to do dangerous exercises to stay fit and strong. In fact, the safest exercises are often the most effective for real-world function and longevity. If this video has opened your eyes to how important exercise selection becomes as we age, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss important health information like this. Second, share this video with every person you know over 60. You could literally save someone from months of pain and thousands of dollars in medical bills. And third, give this video a thumbs up so YouTube knows this is important content that more people need to see. Your health and independence are too valuable to risk on outdated, dangerous exercises. Make the smart choice, make the safe choice, and you'll be able to stay active and strong for decades to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll discuss the biggest nutrition mistakes that are secretly aging your body faster than anything else.